Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how a literary classic like The Great Gatsby is actually taught. We'll get into the blueprint that educators are using to make it connect with students today, and, maybe more importantly, what skills they're trying to build for the 21st century.
Okay, so let's just get right to it. The elephant in the room. How on earth do you make a novel that's 100 years old, all about the Roaring Twenties, feel like it has anything to say to a teenager who's grown up with TikTok and iPhones?
So the way this curriculum tackles that big question is pretty smart. It actually frames the entire unit, we're talking 5 to 7 weeks here, around two big guiding ideas that basically turn the students into detectives.
Yeah, so instead of just kicking things off with, okay everyone, read chapter 1, students are immediately handed a mission. These essential questions become the lens for everything they do. It totally reframes the act of reading into a critical investigation. They're not just reading a story, they're exploring American culture itself and trying to figure out what it even means for a book to be called great.
So, you've got these big questions, but how do you make the 1920s feel, real? Not just like some old, grainy black and white movie. Well, the trick isn't just to read the book, it's to build an entire world around it.
To really give students that full 360-degree view, the curriculum weaves together a whole universe of different texts. It's not just about Gatsby's glamorous parties. No. Students are also analyzing poetry from the Harlem Renaissance, they're digging into historical articles about things like nativism, and, get this, they're even connecting it to modern satire.
And this right here, this is where the magic happens. By putting the novel right next to a satirical article from The Onion, it forces this incredible conversation between the past and the present. All of a sudden, these themes of wealth, privilege, and whether you face consequences for your actions, they aren't just historical ideas anymore. They become immediate, they become relevant, and they feel like they're happening right now.
But look, this unit is about so much more than just building historical context. It's very specifically engineered to level up a student's entire analytical toolkit, to literally move them from one stage of critical thinking to the next.
And here is the secret sauce. You see, the goal isn't just about reading harder books. It's about a very deliberate, structured progression. Students are guided from just analyzing one theme to seeing how two or more themes crash into each other. They move beyond just following what a character does to analyzing the impact of an author's specific choices. It is a massive leap from basic understanding to real critical analysis.
Now, a huge piece of making that leap is learning how to decode really sophisticated literary devices. Understanding satire, knowing the difference between what a text says and what it actually means, is a key skill this curriculum is designed to teach. It's a tool that really unlocks a much, much deeper level of reading. But reading, as we know, is only half the journey. The ultimate goal here is to empower students, to help them move from being passive consumers of a story to becoming active critics who can actually form and defend their own arguments with evidence.
And this isn't your standard write an essay assignment. No way. It's this carefully structured process that teaches students how to think like a professional critic. They start by taking apart examples, then they plan their own arguments, and then they go through these really targeted revisions to make their points sharper, clearer, and way more credible. It's basically a blueprint for building a strong, persuasive voice.
And it all leads up to this. This is the final boss, the big question. After weeks of deep analysis, students are finally asked to weigh in on the novel's massive legacy. The curriculum gives them all the tools, and then it empowers them to render their own verdict on whether this book is truly great.
So, when you pull back and look at the whole thing, what's the big takeaway? What is the ultimate point of teaching a classic novel in this way?
Well, it's a really clear journey in 3 steps. First, students are immersed in the historical context. Then, they're equipped with sharp analytical tools. And finally, they're guided to develop a powerful critique that is all their own. And that, of course, brings us right back where we started, to those essential questions. But now, they're not just guessing. They can tackle these huge, complex ideas with actual textual evidence, with historical context, and with the critical skills they need to build a really compelling argument.
And in the end, that's what makes this blueprint so powerful. It shifts the entire focus away from just finding the one right answer about a book, and instead, it's all about developing a curious, critical mind. It teaches students how to join the great, ongoing conversation about what our stories mean, and why, even 100 years later, they still matter.